Hello, welcome to my channel. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't, please click the subscribe button. But I have an upcoming album that I'm going to be making, and I always include my album builds in with that particular playlist so that the album build matches what my intentions are on the final build for that album. So I have cut 2 pieces of chipboard that are 10 by 9 and 1 piece of chipboard that is 10 by 2.5. This is for my spine. I have 2 pieces of 12 by 12 cardstock. One of them will remain at 12 by 12. The other one you're going to cut down 12 by 11.5. And then we are going to overlap these two by a 1/2 inch. And then the album, let me do this so you see what I'm aiming for. So the album is going to overlap by about a 1/2 inch. My desire is to have a 1/2 inch at the end of each one of these so that I've got an inch to pull over on the wrap. What is also probably more critical than anything is that when I place 2 pieces of paper together, I want that seam to be in the middle somewhere on a piece of cardstock. I do not want this seam falling in the gusset that we're going to be building. That is just disaster waiting to happen because it is becomes a weak point in the album. Might be nice if I had that sitting right side up. Goodness sakes, Charlie. All right, so as it lays out, I've roughly got an inch on all sides. We're going to bind these with 2 strips of Tyvek. It is an envelope product for shipping and mailing. It has great resiliency, minimal if zero tear, and it works great for binding these pieces together. This will go on the outside of the chipboard, and then the cardstock will lay up next to it. What this allows to do is that the hinge on this will be taking all of the flexion, and the rough edge of the chipboard is going to be riding on this Tyvek, and then the cardstock is going to be riding on the back side of the Tyvek, which will then allow that cardstock to kind of move and float over it. It's not going to get hung up on these sharp edges and then create a potential tear point. So you are going to cut 2 pieces of Tyvek, approximately 10 inches. It can be 9. It doesn't have to be exact. But I do want you to cut it by 2.5 inches. And then you're going to come in and you're going to score at 7/8 and then at 1 1/8. We're creating a 1/4 inch gusset down roughly the middle of this. And that is what is going to be taped on here, but on the reverse side, so that the chipboard has got something that's going to bind everything. So the first thing I want to do is get this cardstock. Easiest way for me to measure that 1/2 inch I want is to use 1/2 inch tape. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put, I could go with a smaller seam, but I think there's better strength if this seam is at least a 1/2 inch. 3/8 of an inch is passable. I've done that in the past. But because of the size of this album, I prefer to have 1/2 inch seam. Oh, did I put that on the right side? Uh-oh. I didn't. Okay, mistake number 1. And I'm going to leave this because I can use this later. I'm just going to leave it on there. I needed that on the 11.5 inch side. So no worries, I'm not going to waste the tape because I'm going to have to put tape on there anyway. So it can just stay right where it is. But I am going to pull this back a bit because I do want this 1/2 inch to be the proper seam coverage. So I'm going to trim that back. I'm going to lay this back down and I'm going to cut the end off just a little bit so it's not hanging around out there. Okay. Let me take care of this. All right, so now this should be my 11.5-inch side. It is. All right, so now I'm going to, I've got a pocket air bubble right there. Need to get that out because that creates a weak spot. A little bit of overhang, so I'm just going to tuck it with my finger. So I'm going to come in here and I am going to lay the paper right along the tape. There, I got the word in there eventually. And I'm just going to follow it all the way up. And then give a good burnish. Okay, so let's set this aside. We'll come back to this in just a few minutes. Let's work on the album build. I am going to take 1/2-inch tape and I am going to put it, when I create, these are the gussets. So I've got score lines that I've creased in here. So I'm going to take the tape and I'm going to follow right up next to that score line. Right next to it, not over it, right next to it. And then I'm going to repeat the process for the other side. This is how I make all my albums. It really doesn't matter what size the album is, but this is the process I go through. It's just that I like to have the correct size album build per project. And this way, someone's not going, okay, how do I do that if they're a first-time visitor? So my album folio playlist will kind of top out here pretty soon because I think I've just about covered every size I think I personally would be building. But if you need to build an album and it's a size not offered in my playlist, find something that is the closest to what you want to build and just make the appropriate adjustments for either your length or your width, and then just follow that guide. Okay, I'm going to burnish these down pretty well, and then I'm going to come in with a second layer of tape. Fingertip decided it wanted to take a walkabout. So I think I'm going to use 3/8. It looks like that's going to be a 1/4. It looks like 3/8 on one side and then a 1/4 inch on another side. I want this fairly well covered because this is going to be a stress point in the album and I want to make sure that it's going to stand up. Okay, so 1/2 inch here on this one. And then 3/8 on this side. I thought if I cut that by 2 1/8 that I would have even sides, but I guess not, it doesn't matter. So either cut it by 2 or 2 1/8. Just make sure that you're scoring at an 7/8 and at 1 1/8. That gives you your 1/4 inch gusset. Okay, so I'm going to start with the gusset piece. I am going to take off only one side of the tape at a time. It's easier to work with. And then I'm going to come in here and lay this right up next to that score line. Not on it, not in the gusset, but on the score line. Okay, so I am now going to take off the other side. And I'm going to add a panel. Same process. I'm going to lay right next, I'm going to make sure I get them right next to the score line. And make sure you're even. So this becomes the outside. That's where the cardstock's going to run against that. Now, I have made this mistake in the past. I've turned it over to show it to somebody, and then I've put the tape on the opposite side. It doesn't work too well, so that became a mess. All right, now we're going to take this piece, and we are going to run it right along that score line once again. And now I will take off this piece here. And then making sure, I'm going to use my grid here. So I hope let me remove this so I can stay up a little bit better in frame. I'm going to use my grid to line this up to make sure that I'm still straight. And then I'm going to lay this right on that gusset line and lay it down so that they are all straight. Okay, I'm going to pull this back in frame. When I'm working on a black tabletop and you're working with black cardstock, they have a tendency to kind of blend. So I use this little white mat so that there's some contrast so you can see a little bit better what I'm doing. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I'm going to run 2 strips of tape around the edges. And by the time I lay this down, I might be crossing over the tape. I'm not worried about it because it just adds an additional layer of coverage. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to come down here. I'm probably off frame. I'm going to add a 1/2 inch strip. See, I didn't waste that. Turn it around. Oh, I got to put my fingertip on. I have been working really hard at rehydrating my fingertips because I've played with so much tape and so much glue. They are just incredibly dry. This fingertip has been helping because then I'm not tugging on my skin with this tape. So I found them on Amazon. They're just fingertips, rubber fingertips. And they work pretty good. Now I'm going to stay here on this end, and I'm going to run another 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to go back around. Seems like it's a lot of tape, but I want good coverage. And I am working with this. I typically want to wrap in 65-pound weight cardstock, but I don't have any. So all I have is 100-pound. So there is going to be a little extra firmness when I go to try to burnish and pull this up into the chipboard. So the extra layer of tape, because I'm working with thicker paper, heavier paper, is going to come quite in handy. And all right, now I'm gonna eyeball this to see just where I need to be. I want to be as even as I can be. So if I don't know if you can see it, so I'll move this in screen so that you can. On each end, I have about a 1/4 inch overlap. This is what I was talking about. I'm not worried about this because it just gives me extra coverage here, and I needed to cover that area anyway underneath the chipboard. So I am going to start with this end, since how we're here. I'm going to take this off. If it will let me. I'm bracing my arm to keep this from shifting so that I don't have to, well, for Pete's sake, I'm just going to seat that so I don't have to recenter this. Okay, so that taped lip there will now help me in keeping it straight. So I am going to take this one off. No, I'm not. I'm going to stop right there. What I need to do is miter my corners. This is a 2-in-1 miter tool, and I can't do this on my rubber mat. It will ruin it. 2-in-1 miter tool. It's heavy, it's metal, it gives good weight so that it's not moving around on me. I got it at colorwayarts.com. It works great. It just seats right in there, and then I just have to hold it right in place, but the weight of it helps to keep it there. In addition to I don't think my craft knife is as sharp as it used to be. So I should probably reach out to that website and tell them that you may be getting extra orders because I'm promoting your product. I gotta bring this around this way. This just slid on me a little bit. Now, I just did something that I should probably mention to you. If you don't keep these gussets straight, they have a tendency to shift or shrink up on you, or they'll even go kind of lopsided. So what I was doing there was making sure that these were staying flat, because it would be somewhat annoying if I go to miter this corner and I didn't make sure that everything was laid out flat. There we go. Okay. And then this corner here. See, I just pushed it in. should probably get a link to their website and put it in the description field, which I think would be a great idea. Then you can just link over there. I love that tool. I don't use anything else anymore. All right, now I'm going to lift it with my fingers to start the burnish because it's stiffer than 65-pound cardstock. And then go in the middle and out. Okay. And then I'm going to press down these corners, smush them in there. The smush a word. Get them pressed in there so I don't have so much of a peak. And then I'm going to remove this. And then I'm going to take this off. This is going to be a little more difficult because of the thickness of the cardstock. So, did you see what just happened? Look at this. See what it just did? So I need to pick this up over here, straighten that back out, put it down. Use my hands to encourage. And then I'll burnish. I love 100-pound cardstock when I'm making the pages that's going to sit on the spine because I like my pages to have some sturdiness to them. It aids in the overall support of the album so that it's not flopping around on you. I'm going to remove a part of that for now. Okay, and then from the center out. Okay, now let's take, these are still straight. Take this off, and then I'm going to flatten, push down and turn, flatten these, that corner. Again, lift, pushing in with my fingers. If you're using a lighter weight, and this should be easier for you. Take off this this should not be doing this. Well, it's a bit too late because I'll have to make some adjustments here in a different spot. Maybe it'll correct itself because it looks okay here and here. I just need to get this flattened down. Oh, I know why it's doing it. I know why it's doing it. I missed a critical step. It's still going to work. I'm kind of frustrated with myself, but usually on the reverse side, I've ran tape along here to hold all this together, but I'm so far along now, I am not going to go through an entire bottle of Undo, and I've got I've already got my ends in, so I can't even get glue squirted in there. So I am just going to have to rely on the fact that I know I will be covering this cardstock, so hopefully the paper will add a weight and it will keep the cardstock down on the chipboard on the reverse side. It doesn't look, I think, very professional when your outer cover is popping up. That's why that was doing that. Okay, good burnish. And my little tool gives me a fairly decent corner. So I am happy with that. Now, I am going to come in here in these gussets right along the pieces of chipboard, and I'm going to burnish in on the gusset. I want that cardstock down inside the gusset. I don't want it floating over the top. And there, as we continue to build, you'll understand. You don't want any gaps. And then I'm going to do it here. Takes a little bit. Now, if you, I'm using a rounded corner here for my burnishing. If you're using a sharp edge, you have a different type of a bone folder, and it's got a sharp edge on it, and you tear the paper. No worries, just fill the tear with some glue and it will stop further deterioration. Okay, now I'm going to just give a gentle fold on each side, and you can see that we've got some nice corners that we've built here. Now for the inside, I am going to, now I need my white mat back. Now I am going to build a cover for the spine. It's going to be 6 inches wide, and this is 12, so I'm going to come about 11 7/8. I do not want to go 12 to 12. 11 7/8. So this is just coming under the height so that you don't see that page sticking up on the ends. All right. Now, I'm going to lay this here. I'm going to roughly center left to right, make sure I've got edges in here just fine. And I'm going to make some tick marks here where the gusset is. And I'm going to score this right here. So pardon my big old scoreboard. Turn it upside down. And I'm going to eyeball roughly where those are. Okay, so I'm at 1.5. And then I want a quarter, so I'm going to be at 3/4. And then I am at, what is that? That's an 8. That's mark coming in at 4 3/8. Interesting. 4 3/8, and then we're going to be at 4 5/8. Okay. So just in case you missed that, this is 6 inches. This is at 1.5 and 1 3/4. And then this is at 4 3/8. And we are at this is 3. What am I doing here? Oh, 4 5/8. Goodness sakes. I'm having a hard time reading this, and so I apologize. So those are your measurements, and this is 6 inches across and just a hair under 12. Now I'm going to fold these over and burnish them. I am finding that black on black numbers are becoming extremely hard for me to see. Must be my age. I bought a new guillotine style trimmer, and though it cuts well, the ruler base is in black, and I can't see it. So, and I unfortunately threw the box away, or I would return it. I cannot see it. And I really wish designers would keep visually impaired people in mind when they're making things. Okay, there, that's my crankiness for the morning. All right, so I've scored on these. I've folded back the score lines. I'm doing a dry fit. So this piece is gonna fit right here, right in there, nice and snug. So now I'm going to run tape on this. And then I will show you the next step. This is what your pages will be placed on. So and at 2.5 inches, and I'm using 1/2 inch tape, that I should have a nice even end here. And then, whoops, my tip fell off. And then my last 1/2 inch. Give it a good burnish. Now I can run tape on this, but I think I'll wait until I get this down before I do that. It just makes for easier for me lately. All right, taking out the middle strip. That's all we need to remove right at the moment, because what I want you to do is make sure that these are folded back, and then we are going to I'm trimming off my ends here. And then we're going to tape down the center, because I want to make sure that I've got the right spread here at the bottom, and that I get in between where I want to be, and that I have the right spread here at the top. There you are. Now I'm going to burnish this with that tape to lay down there, and then I will pull this back and remove the rest of the tape now that I've got this in place. Okay. Uh-oh, did that? Oh, it came off. Good. Give this a good burnish. Okay. Now, when I lay this next strip of tape, and I'm going to push back on this because I don't want to put tape inside that gusset line. So I'm going to push back. You can do this all as one piece, which I typically do. This is the first time I've decided I want to try this out by laying it on first. And then taping and see if it's any easier. Now it looks like I have 3/8 of a gap left there. And now I'm going to give her a good old burnish. And then I'm going to turn this around and I'm going to repeat that process. I'm going to push back on that score line so that, again, I'm not laying any tape within it. And then my 3/8 to finish. It's a little bit short of 3/8. Now I want to, so this is the disadvantage. So I don't think I'll do this again. Getting in here to trim these ends. Yeah, it's not too bad. I just don't want tape showing on the ends. Okay. Now I'm going to make sure I burnish again. I am going to remove this piece first, and then I'm going to show you how I do the rest of this. Using my bone folder, I'm going to lay this over, and in this gusset, I am going to start with the left side, and I'm going to push down. Hopefully I'm running it right along the score line. And then I'm going to come over to this side of the chipboard, and I'm going to push down, and I'm going to run it because I want to push this paper into the gusset. And then I'm just going to gently lay this over because I don't want this coming up. And now I'll remove the rest of the paper, the tape. Oh, for Pete's sake, come on. Wow, that just separated. That's okay, so come back in here, rescore. It's because I didn't burnish it that it did that. Now I have some tape overhang, not gonna worry about it because it's gonna get covered. All right, now we're going to come in on this side, and I'm going, whoops, wrong tool. Remove this tape. Same process. I'm going to follow my score line, pressing up against the chipboard piece, and then I'm going to come out here to the outer edge, and I'm going to do the same thing, encouraging that cardstock, breaking the fibers so that they will go down in there, and then I'm going to gently lay this. And I think this time I'm going to burnish so that doesn't separate again like it did. And of course it makes it stiffer to get in here. Okay. All right. Again, we're going to fold in, and you see we still have that nice framework here. Now let's work on adding your pages. You're going to need 3 pieces of cardstock. These I would prefer that you use a heavier weight, an 80 or 100-pound weight, because we want some sturdiness here. You're going to be putting some heavy signatures on these pages, and a 65-pound is going to not be sturdy enough to hold the weight that's going to happen if you're going to make the album that I'm making this for. You're going to make the mini album that I'm making this one for. All right, I want to cut this the same length as this center piece, and I'm an eyeball person, so I'm just going to come in here. I'm going to make a mark, and that's where I'm going to cut for my length. And then I will show you what I will do for the width. Okay, so here's my length. Now it is easier for me to visualize if I do my score marks. I've got a 2.5-inch spine. I always allow a 5/8 gusset in between each of those pages so that when the pages close and the signatures stand up next to each other, that they will stand up next to each other, not be competing for the same space because we had a smaller gusset. So a 5/8 inch of a gusset allows me to build up pretty well on both pages and not have them competing for space in between. So I am going to reverse side. I'm going to bend that over. I'm going to burnish. Now, I have seen many albums where the pages, I'll stagger this, where the pages came out like this because there was not room allowed for when the album closed. So what I do to make sure that doesn't happen is I will bring my spine up, put it in position. I'll shift it so you can see what I'm doing. I will put it in position. I will flatten the paper up next to it as if it's in a closed position. And then I will take a look where I'm at right here on this end. And I want to come in about 3/8 of an inch. And that's where I'm going to trim my paper to. I don't want it pushing out on the edge. Okay. So for this album, the width ended up getting cut at 9 3/4 of an inch. Or I'm sorry. Listen to the ruler, it doesn't lie. 9.5 inches. You're going to cut this 9.5, and then you're going to come in here and you're going to give us a 5/8 score line here. And then this ended up at 9 7/8. Not too bad of an eyeball, look. So I'm going to cut 2 more of these. So I know I'm at 9.5 by 9 7/8. So I'm going to cut 9.5, 9 7/8. There's one. Nine and a half, and then 9 7/8. I know you can't see what I'm doing because my trimmer's over there. want my 9 7/8 running this way. And my 9 1/2 across the top of the board. And then I'm going to score at 5/8. And because this is pretty thick, I go over it a few times because I want to break the fibers in this paper. And I'm going to give it a good burnish. And then this one. Now, if you have a different hinge system, by all means, use it. You don't have to do it this way. I find it easier for me because to try and work one of those hidden hinges, all those valleys and mountains, it drives me kind of crazy, I'll be honest. And I want to be able to make my pages instantly attach without having to, I'm sorry, I struggle with it. There, I tattled on myself. There's so many ways to make the spine pages. There is a lot of them out there. Oops, forgot this one. Oh, where'd my fingertip just, oh, there it is. All right, now, do you see this edge right here of the chipboard? That's where I'm going to lay this. I'm going to set this edge right there along the edge of the chipboard. So now your attachment from here is just like a waterfall. This just ends up being a big waterfall. You bring the next one, you butt it up here. You bring the next one, you butt it up. That's the easiest way for me to describe this. But you got to get the first one put in the right way. So I'm going to turn it this way so you can see hopefully a little bit better what I'm doing. So here's the edge of my chipboard. That's the edge of my spine. I'm going to match it to the top and to the bottom, and I'm going to come as close to the edge of that chipboard as I can. Reinforce that score and then burnish. Okay. And just like little waterfalls, I'm going to come right up under this lip, matching top to bottom. I know this is hard for you to see because it's under the camera, black on black. But if you've made waterfalls before, that's what you need to keep in mind. And then if I laid this right, I should be fairly even when this lays over the first one I put in. Okay, same process. I'm going to come right up underneath here. Oh, I got a white piece. I got to make that go away. Okay, I'm going to come right up underneath of this. Press down on my ends, lay it over. So in the little cup, I gotta just take it out when I burnish it. All right. Okay, so there we have it. And I will show you that 2.5 inch spine. I know I've had people question, well, if you're doing 3 pages, why do you have 2.5 inch spine? That's because when I laid this first piece, I've got a 5/8 gusset right here. And then I have a 5/8 gusset here, here, and approximately a 5/8 gusset here. It's a little bit wider, but that works out just fine. I don't want to back this up to take out this space. I could cut this probably 1/8 of an inch shorter, but I'm happy with what this is. Okay. I'm not covering these inside panels because I will be doing that with the pattern paper from the collection I'll be using for this particular album. But that is your 10 by 9 with a 2.5 inch spine album build. And thank you for participating.